Guru Vishnu,
Vishnu,
Guru Dev
Guru Devo,
Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhuvaswaha Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Satgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityurma Amritam Gamya. Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahna Bhunaktu Sahviryam Karvavahi Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. So with God's grace, Guru's grace, we are starting Avadhuta Gita today. Avadhuta Gita has the same timeless message of Vedas. It's called a song of the ever free. Gita means the song, Avadhut means ever free, liberated. There's a beautiful message by Swami Vivekananda in one of his letters. The title of the letter is, Why Do You Weep, My Friend? He goes on saying that, why do you weep, my friend? In you is all power. Summon up your all-powerful nature, O mighty one, and this whole universe will be at your feet. It is the self alone that predominates and not matter. Men like Dattatreya Avadhuta, who wrote this song, they keep this philosophy alive. They really transcend the body idea, and they are living unaffected by the pairs of opposites. Heat and cold, praise and blame, happiness and misery, and even birth and death. They remain perfectly calm. Wherever they are and whatever they do, enjoying the bliss of the Atma. On the other hand, we spend our lives in craving and pursuing the transient things of the world. When we don't get them, we complain, we cry, we bewail our bad luck. And when we get these transient things, we become arrogant. But great Avadhut, what does it tell us? They tell us, as a friend do to another friend, as a philosopher, as a guide. They are calling to us. They say, why do you weep, my friend? Why are you weeping? They reassure us. Because they have discovered this technique to break the shackles of the bondage, and they are ready to help others. This freedom, which is the goal of life. According to the Vedantic tradition, we can reach an understanding of this philosophy, the Vedic philosophy, with the help of scriptures, with the help of reason and experience. These are the three things: scriptures, reason, and experience. But it's very interesting to note that man-made scriptures can be nullified by revealed scriptures. Revealed scriptures means the Vedas, the Shrutis. Ordinary reason can be nullified by higher reason. Higher reason is Vivek. But the experience can never be nullified. Just like sugar tastes sweet. This is an irrefutable experience, which cannot be affected by quoting the scriptures or by means of any kind of argumentations. This is experience. That's why the teachings of the Avadhuta Gita are based on the experience of the Dattatreya Avadhuta. There's no logic in there. He's not using the logic. He's just stating what he's experiencing. Because he himself declared, he says the great Avadhuta, after purifying himself through meditation and becoming absorbed in the uninterrupted bliss of Brahma, has sung this Gita spontaneously. So this is the experience speaking. He says the freedom is the song of the soul. And this Avadhuta sang that song throughout Gita. His philosophy can be summed up in few sentences actually. Number one, Brahman is the supreme reality. The world is apparent like water in a mirage. The real nature of the individual soul is divine. Then he says this divinity is covered with ignorance. It is due to ignorance that human beings limit themselves. And they think they are men or women, healthy or sick, beautiful or ugly, rich or poor, learned or illiterate, happy or unhappy. He says actually they are infinite, eternal, blissful, self. Another thing he says, human beings are hypnotized by Maya. One has to dehypnotize oneself in order to be free. His teachings are full of hope and strength, joy and freedom. There is no concept in his teaching about sin or the sinner. Because it's all pervading Sat Chit Anand. Existence, consciousness, bliss dwells in all. He says every human being is potentially divine. Some readers of this Avadhuta Gita may feel that repetition of certain ideas is monotonous. But we should know that this is the special technique used to dehypnotize us. That repetition is needed. Because this great teacher wanted to awaken us from our deep sleep of ignorance. Because we don't know how many lives we have been going around in this deep sleep. So repetition is needed. Another thing I want you to know, Hinduism stands on a tripod. The Gita, the Ganga, and the Gayatri. These are the three legs. Let me repeat it again. The Gita, the Ganga, and the Gayatri. Gita stands for philosophy. Whether it's a Bhagavad Gita, or Uddhav Gita, or Ram Gita, or Ashtavakra Gita, or Avadhuta Gita or many others Gita also. Whenever there's a Gita name, that means it's a philosophy. So that's one of the leg of the tripod. So Gita stands for philosophy. Ganga for rituals. Gayatri for spiritual practices like meditation. Gayatri is recited before meditation. We are praying to God, give me that kind of an intellect so that I know my real nature. That's Gayatri. Avadhuta Gita is an independent treaty. It really teaches us uncompromising non-dualism. That means there's only one, not two. That's non-dualism, Brahman. So authorship is attributed to the Avadhuta Dattatreya. So that's why this work is also called Datta Gita. That's another name for it. Dattatreya, so Datta Gita or Datta Gita Yoga Shastra. Because he talks about yoga also in here. It's also titled very rarely a Vedanta Sar also. Okay, so I don't want you to get confused because you might see these names when you do some research. This little book has 271 verses, divided into 8 chapters. The first chapter has 76 verses, deals with the nature of the Atma. And what is the nature of the Atma? It's omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, which has no birth, no death, no bondage, no liberation either. Because it's not bondage, how can there be a liberation? That's what he's going to tell us. Second chapter deals with the proofs for this. It has 40 verses. And he will tell us that duality is born out of ignorance of the real nature of ourself. Over here, we'll see that great Avadhuta has given us a hint at the need for a guru in our spiritual life. Chapter 3rd and 4th. Chapter 3rd has 46 verses, 4th has 25 verses. These chapters deal with the inner nature of the Atma in a very highly poetical tone. Chapter 5 has 32 verses. Over there, we'll see the advice to us to avoid all lamentations. As the Atma is the same in all conditions, why do you lament? Why do you weep? Why do you cry? Chapter 6 has 27 verses, which negates all kinds of distinctions. Distinction, whether it's of caste or family, of senses or objects, of the mind, of the intellect, or even their activities. Because he says none of these really exist. When we are looking at them from the viewpoint or the standpoint of the Atma. And chapter 7 has 15 verses that describes the state of the Avadhuta. Avadhuta is a state. And chapter 8 has 10 verses which gives us a definition of the word Avadhuta by interpreting each of the syllables of that word. It's like a broken down that word for us, how we can understand it. So I have given you the breakdown of this book, 271 verses divided into 8 chapters. So just you'll see that when we are doing each chapter, pay attention. What are we studying in that particular chapter? It's very important to know. What are we trying to study? Who is this Avadhuta Dattatreya, to whom the authorship of this work is ascribed? They say he is Lord Vishnu himself, born as the son of the great sage Atri and his wife Anasuya. But he is also described as the incarnation of the Hindu Trinity. Sometimes he is stated to be one of the 7 sages, Saptarishi. They say that it was he who taught knowledge of the self to Prahlad, to Yadu, to Kritvirya. You remember Tuesday we learned about that Sahasrabahu Arjuna, and there's a name for him, Kritvirya also. It's the same person. Dattatreya was the guru of him also. He managed to destroy a host of demons just by the power of his austerity. This kind of a personality. He has been spoken of very highly, even in some of the Upanishads, such as Yajnavalkya Upanishad, Bhikshu Upanishad, Parivrachak Upanishad, Jabala Upanishad. So all these great Upanishads, they mention Dattatreya. Even the Shandalya Upanishad. Shandalya Upanishad gives an explanation of the term Dattatreya and also narrates his story briefly. So from all this, we can see that Dattatreya is a very ancient spiritual personality. He is a sage. He was a king also. Then he gave up his kingdom. And he is an avatar, highly respected through the ages. There is a Dattatreya symbology also. See, there's a symbology of a Ganeshji, symbology of a Shivji, symbology of a Vishnu also. So what is a Dattatreya symbology? He's usually pictured as having 3 heads and 6 hands. Remember, it's a symbology. It's not that he was born with 6 hands. So 3 heads, 6 hands, surrounded by 4 dogs and a cow. Okay. And what are these 3 heads? These are the heads of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. 6 hands, they signify 6 supernatural qualities. In one hand, there is a conch, shank. Another hand, the chakra, disc. Then there's a damru, the drum. Trishul, the trident. Akshamala, the rosary. Kamandalu, the water pot. So these being the typical emblems of the 3 deities, Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. Okay. So that's why in 6 hands, these are the symbolic things there. And he wears wooded sandals on his feet. That speaks of his austerity. That's why he is worshipped as an ideal monk. It's not that he could not afford better footwear, but wooden sandals. The garland of the Rudraksh beads around his neck represents the series of universes created by him. He's a creator also, Brahma. And he also has matted hair. That's a symbolism of the fire of knowledge. Matted hair. And what are these 4 dogs? 4 dogs are the 4 Vedas, guys. Even the Vedas, which give us knowledge leading to enlightenment, they follow Dattatreya ji. See, we want to follow the Vedas are following him as dogs. Just as a dog tries to protect his master, but in reality is protected by him, even so, the Vedas try to protect God, the personification of righteousness. In reality, it is the God who protects them. It's a very deep thought behind this symbolism. Cow. Cow represents the goddess earth or nature. Okay, so even if you look at in certain books, you will see all these symbols around him. So Avadhuta Gita, though apparently simple, is a difficult text to understand. That's why after each lecture, we'll have meditation, because I want you to sit still, go deep within, and try to see what you have learned every Thursday. We should meditate every day, but Thursday I want you to make a special effort after the class to meditate, so that any kind of a difficulty which this churning mind had will be solved right there. Every religion has 3 parts: philosophy, ritual, and mythology. Philosophy. Philosophy is the foundation on which the ritual builds the superstructure. And this in turn is decorated by mythology. So all 3 are very important. In ancient time, the mythology was highly valued by people because this collection of stories embodied their traditional, cultural, and religious views. But modern people, too much skepticism there. They feel that myths are just fables, they are concocted stories, unhistorical traditions. And they even say that there's no practical value to it. But in fact, the fascinating power of mythology holds the spirit of religion for the masses of the world. We should have an alert mind, clear judgment. Only then we can enjoy these myths also. These charming stories, otherwise we'll miss the teachings which are behind these stories. There are countless stories in the Vedas, in the Puranas, in the epics. They really give us the eternal teachings of Vedic wisdom. So is this story also, which I'm going to tell you. It's very fascinating, entertaining also. But most important, there is a reason for this scripture behind this story. Story goes like this. There once lived an old Brahman who was a leper. His wife, known far and wide for her wonderful chastity, was very dutiful and loving to her husband, taking care of him with great devotion and steadfastness. One night, while carrying her invalid husband along a road, she passed by a tree. And under the tree, there was a hermit who was meditating. Since it was very dark, the wife did not see the hermit. And as she walked by, the feet of her husband accidentally brushed against the body of the meditating hermit. The hermit was furious and cursed her husband, saying, "He who has kicked me and disturbed my meditation shall die at sunrise tomorrow." Naturally, the wife was very upset, but calming herself, she replied, "From tomorrow there will be no sunrise." Since it was uttered by a chaste woman, it must come true. The sun did not rise. The next day, the world was filled with darkness and chaos prevailed. Story goes like this, that gods went to Brahma, the creator, for a solution. He said only the power can overwhelm power, and only tapasya can surmount tapasya. The power of a chaste woman has stopped the sunrise, so we must seek the help of another chaste woman who can counteract her power and restore the sunrise. At Brahma's suggestion, the gods sought out Anasuya, the pure and virtuous wife of sage Atri. They told her the whole story and asked for her help. Moved by their pleas, Anasuya approached the Brahman's wife with sweet words, saying, "The power of your word has stopped the sunrise, and as a result, the whole creation is in a chaotic condition. I have come to see if we can reach an agreement. If you withdraw your command and ask the sun to rise again, I shall restore life to your dead husband with my power of chastity." We often talk about the female power. This is the power. The Brahman's wife agreed. The sun rose, and Anasuya kept her promise. The gods, extremely pleased, offered Anasuya a boon. In reply, she asked that Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva be born as her sons. A wish that was granted. And in due course, Brahma was born as Som, Vishnu as Dattatreya, and Shiv as Durvasa. This is the story behind this. So Dattatreya, an incarnation of Vishnu, was a great sage and a yogi who practiced various kinds of austerities and many forms of yoga. He had a magnetic personality which attracted the young sages, so much so that they followed him wherever he went. But Dattatreya wanted to be alone because as a yogi, he preferred solitude. As we all know, solitude is more conducive to the practice of yoga. So in order to free himself from these young sages, he tried to distract them. He submerged himself in the water in a lake, remaining at the bottom of the lake for a long, long time. But they still will not go away. They stayed on the shore of the lake, waiting for him to reappear. Then Dattatreya He hit upon another plan to avoid the crowd. He arose from the bottom of the lake in the company of a beautiful woman who was none other than his consort, the goddess Lakshmi. But he thought that his students, not knowing who this woman is, would think that I have fallen from my high state of yoga, and disillusioned they would then leave him. But the young sages were no fools. They did not get deceived. They knew that this great yogi is beyond good and evil. His outward behavior is just a mere show. Consequently, nothing can contaminate him, as a lotus leaf cannot be moistened by the water on which it floats. The mind of a yogi can never be touched by worldliness, and they knew that. So the young sages, they reasoned in this manner and remained there around him, their revered master. Another time, see, these are all the stories written in the scriptures, in Mahabharata also, and in the other books also. Another time, there was a war between gods and the demons. Gods fought valiantly but were defeated and banished from heaven. And they got the help of the Dattatreya. They came to him and he helped the Devatas so that they can have their heaven back. The greatness of Dattatreya has been recounted in many scriptures. At times, he is portrayed as an ascetic, a yogi who can grant lavish boons. Sometimes he is described as worldly, as a king also, luxury loving and carefree also. But the second side of him was just a Maya, which he displayed before ordinary people so that they can have it discussed for him. Some did, some did not. Because wise saw his real nature, stayed in his company, receiving his blessings, receiving his teachings, and the boons also. But the beauty of this Indian mythology lies in the fact that by means of vivid and unforgettable stories, we can understand the philosophy which is the substratum of it. A lot of practical lessons are presented to the ordinary people with the help of these stories. These stories inspire us too. So this legend of Dattatreya keeps us mindful of the supreme goal of human life. Seek God if you want peace and bliss. If you allow yourself to be hypnotized by Maya, then like the demons, you will be destroyed. That is the message. And his teachings I'll go over again next week when we meet, or maybe in between the lessons, because his teachings he taught like my children. He started out, my children, let me tell you one thing. If you want to attain perfection in tapasya, in japa, or in yoga, you need tremendous perseverance. So in a very fatherly like, my children, that's how he teaches. He says, my children, if you want to practice yoga, you must remove all attachment from your heart. If you cannot do this, then keep the company of holy people. Give up desires. But if you cannot give up desires, then cultivate the desire for liberation. So in a very beautiful, clear, gentle way, just like a mother will tell a child or a father will tell, that's how he imparts this deep knowledge to us. Okay. So today we have only this much time. Tomorrow I'll start, next Thursday I'll start again from here and give you more introduction. But you got some idea of the life story of Dattatreya. So we'll take few questions and after that we'll do the meditation. Because it's almost 11:15. So anybody has any question or no? No question? Okay. All right. So we'll just do a little longer meditation. But I want to give you another quote over here before we do the meditation. This quote is from Vivek Chudamani. In the Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya ji says, the fool thinks I am the body. The intelligent man thinks I am an individual soul united with the body. But the wise man, in the greatness of his knowledge and spiritual discrimination, sees the self as the only reality and thinks I am Brahman. So this scripture which we are going to study next few months is of the third kind, the wise man. The wise man, in the greatness of his knowledge and spiritual discrimination, sees the self as the only reality and thinks I am Brahman. Okay, so that's why I thought that meditation is very important right after this class. So
Harshji, can you repeat the quotation again, please?
the whole quotation: the fool thinks I am the body. That is the first statement. The intelligent man thinks I am an individual soul united with the body. But the wise man, see, there's a difference between a wise man and an intelligent man. Wise man, in the greatness of his knowledge and spiritual discrimination, sees the self as the only reality and thinks I am Brahman. Okay, so let's try to meditate. And as I said earlier, after meditation, we'll end the class. So if you have any questions, write them down for tomorrow. You can ask the question if you want to, or next Thursday before the class. Okay, because after meditation, there's a no chat, chit chat, or question answers. And meditation we are going to do for 10 minutes today. And there's a Om sound over here. You can keep your back straight, shoulders relaxed, eyes closed. Focus on the breath if you want to, that's the easiest. But if you want to just dig deeper into your own light, do that. Okay? But eyes closed, please.
Oh.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om.